The first person I'm going to ask to speak is Sabby Dhalu. She is the Joint Secretary of Unite Against Fascism National.
Well, in some ways, we have reason to celebrate because there aren't very many victories for those of us on the centre-left and left these days. But the defeat of fascist organisations, both electorally in terms of the British National Party over the last decade and now the English Defence League, is something that we should remember and we should indeed celebrate. Because since the EDL were out-mobilised and isolated in East London in Tower Hamlets in September 2011, their support for their mobilisations has massively reduced, whereas in Luton, February 2011, they mobilised around 2,000 to 3,000 people marching through with flags and all. Now they can barely muster 400 people on the streets. So whilst that is still something that we should worry about, still something that we must unite and mobilise against, that was an important victory. And also since then, we have won the argument about why it's important to mobilise against EDL. Before then, many people thought we were just troublemakers, that we were just two sides of the same coin, opposing one another on the streets. And that's not the case. We stand in the tradition of all those before us who fought against fascism. The reason why many people live and walk freely on the streets of London, Manchester and across Britain without fear of racist attack and violence, or less so than previously, is because those before us fought for that right. It was hard-won. People that fought against the black shirts in the 1930s, people who fought against the National Front in the 1970s, the BNP, and now the English Defence League. This was hard-won, and it's important to demonstrate and voice that opposition peacefully, to demonstrate that the majority of people oppose the English Defence League. That's why it's important to mobilise and demonstrate against them. But as I said, one cannot be complacent because the English Defence League haven't disappeared. They're still here, they're still mobilising, and it's very worrying that they've made the decision to come to Manchester again. And I think that it's no accident that they've chosen Manchester. One, because they're exploiting issues such as grooming and other issues in a deliberate attempt to create division and to stir up tensions in a community. And unfortunately, that particular issue has in some ways been covered irresponsibly in the mainstream press, with some sections of the media attempting to portray Asian and Muslim men as somehow uniquely responsible for prostitution and paedophilia, when we all know that this is something that is not unique to any one particular community. This is something that as a society all of us have to address, and their perpetrators and their victims come in many different backgrounds. And all research into this subject indeed shows that it's not the case that Asian people, Muslim people are somehow uniquely the only perpetrators of this crime, and nor are the victims only white, and nor are people targeted deliberately because they're white. People, young girls, targeted because they're vulnerable. But that is a particular issue which is being exploited by the EDL and indeed the BNP. And moving on to the BNP, I think it's no accident that they are that this demonstration comes 15 months before the Euro elections next year in June 2014, because the North West and Yorkshire are the two areas in 2009 where fascists gained MEPs. Nick Griffin in the North West, as you all know, unfortunately, and Andrew Bronze in Yorkshire. And so fascists see this as an area where there is some support for them. That is why I believe that they have chosen this particular city to drum up support in the run-up to those elections. And so that is why it's important for us to both mobilise on Saturday and demonstrate our unity, to demonstrate that Muslim, Jewish, lesbian, gay, trade unionists, liberals, socialists, we are all united against fascism, just as before us many people united against fascism. And on that note, I'd like to talk about the issue of no platform and freedom of speech, because on Tuesday our organisation demonstrated against Marine Le Pen's address to the Cambridge Union, and we have a no platform policy, and some people don't understand why we have a no platform policy, and some people think that we are curtailing and we're opposed to freedom of speech, when in fact the exact opposite is the case. And I'd just like to explain that for some of you who may not know. The reason why we have a no platform policy is because one has to remember the atrocities and the scale of what happened in the Second World War. So let me remind you. Historians and statisticians account for around 50 to 70 million fatalities as a result of the Second World War across the globe. And 15 million, according to the Holocaust Educational Trust, was actually under Nazi occupation itself. So that's quite a high percentage, 15 million, of all of those fatalities across the globe. That obviously included Jewish people murdered in the Holocaust, but also Germany had the biggest black population at the time, Slav communities, Eastern European communities, Gypsies, lesbian and gay people, all those that spoke out and opposed the regime. And the people that died, they died opposing fascism. They died in the name of freedom and liberation for the majority of humanity. So it's after that, the whole world said never again, and that is why we have a no platform policy, because we don't wish to see such fascist, such a regime rise to power over again, and that is why we don't believe they should be given platform and publicity. It's not about freedom of speech. Marine Le Pen, her freedom of speech is not curtailed if she doesn't address the Cambridge Union. I have never been invited to address the Cambridge Union. My freedom of speech and expression is not curtailed as a result of that, and neither is hers. And when it comes to the EDL, often people cite the same arguments. What about freedom of speech? What about freedom of expression? This is not about freedom of speech. What about the freedom of ordinary people to go about their daily business on a Saturday? When the English Defence League come to town, the whole town centre, and often the whole city, parts of the city are actually shut down, shops boarded up. What about people's right to earn a living that day? What about people's right to go shopping, go about their daily business, hang out with their friends on a Saturday? People are working hard all week. Why can't they enjoy their weekend? Why have they got to stay at home because the English Defence League are in town? And what about Muslim people's right to pray freely? Often Muslim people are attacked, black people are attacked, mosques are attacked. What about their right to worship freely? What about the freedom for the majority of people in Britain and in Manchester and in the cities that the EDL target? What about our freedom? That's the English Defence League demonstrating in a town. It's not about freedom, it's about exploitation, it's about intimidation, it's about violence and fear. They have no right to that as far as I'm concerned. So that's my answer to those people who cry freedom of speech when the English Defence League comes down. So on that note, I will end my speech. Please do come to the demonstration on Saturday, and remember that the struggle does not stop there. In 15 months' time, we must remove Nick Griffin as an MEP in the North West. It's crucial that we do so, because we do not want a situation in Britain that is similar to France or in Greece, where the Front National are polling, 18% in the presidential elections, where Golden Dawn have 18 MEPs and are mobilising 30,000 people on the streets. We do not want that to happen here, and we have been successful in halting that from happening here, and we must continue that. So please do join us on Saturday, and please do join United Against Fascism and help us defeat the BNP and all fascist organisations. Thank you.